Hey everyone, welcome back to Mandarin Mayhem. Today's episode is packed with laughs and learning as we dive into the quirky world of Chinese idioms, also known as 成语. You know, those little 4-character phrases that carry deep meaning but sound totally crazy and wild when translated literally. These idioms are sprinkled everywhere in Chinese conversations, and today we're going to uncover some of the funniest origins behind them. Buckle up because you're in for some seriously strange but fascinating stories. We teach these in our classes to the students and they have a bunch of laughs. But to be good in Chinese, you have to know them. So here's the first one. First one is called 杯弓蛇影. What does this mean? It literally means mistaking the reflection of a bow for a snake. What do you think this means? It sounds completely ridiculous, right? Think about talking with your friends and you go, yeah, that's like mistaking the reflection of a bow for a snake. And you're like, what does that mean? But this idiom is all about overreacting to something that isn't real. The story behind it goes like this. A long time ago, a man was sitting at a banquet and saw what he thought was a snake at the bottom of his wine cup. Horrifying, right? Anyway, so usually people don't do anything else. You're like, oh, hey, there's a snake at my wine cup, but guess what? This is a Chinese story. Anyway, he's horrified, but what does he do? He forces himself to drink the wine anyway to not seem rude. Because that's what Chinese people do, right? They drink snake to not seem rude. Later, he felt terribly sick, thinking that the snake had poisoned him. Duh. The truth, there was no snake at all, just a reflection of a bow hanging on the wall behind him. So what's the moral of the story? So the moral of the story is sometimes we create our own fears, even when there's nothing to be afraid of. So next time you see a snake in your wine, relax. It's just probably your imagination. But hey, how far-fetched is this story? From a snake to a shadow of a snake to the deep meaning of we create our own fears. So deep, right? So if you spit out those 4 words, you're like really deep. So second one is 井底之蛙. It means, hey, don't be a frog at the bottom of the well. Well, you go, the humble little frog who thinks that the little tiny circle of the sky above the well is the whole universe. Probably to this point, you're still thinking, what on earth are you saying, Julie? What is the point you're trying to make? Okay, so this idiom describes literally that. There's a little frog on the bottom of the well. And when he looks up, he sees a little tiny circle of the sky because he can only see that little tiny circle representing the sky. And so it describes someone with a very narrow perspective, basically a frog who thinks he's the center of the universe because he's never seen beyond his tiny little well. Well, the funny part is that this little frog has no idea that the world is so much bigger than his well. This idiom is a really funny reminder to broaden your horizons and not to be limited by your own experiences. In other words, it's usually targeted to tell somebody, hey, your perspective is very inexperienced. Please have a wider perspective. It's a very nice way of saying that. Okay, so third one, 守株待兔. So, literally, it'll mean waiting for a rabbit by the tree stump. So what moral does that bring? You're like, I have no idea. Chinese people are so weird at this point. I don't even know what to make of it. Why do these idioms sound so weird? So this idiom paints a very funny picture of, imagine a farmer who literally waits by a tree stump for a rabbit to run into it. For what though? So one time, a farmer was sitting by a tree, a rabbit comes, bumps its head in the tree, dies. So the farmer goes, oh, great, I have something to eat now. So he thinks, if I just sit here more rabbits will come, crash their head, and die from, the crash in the stump. So, spoiler alert, no more rabbits came. So, what is the moral of the story? This idiom is used to poke fun at people who think success will come without any effort. Like, you can't just sit there and wait for success to come, right? You can't wait around for a lucky break. Okay, fourth idiom of the day is 骑虎难下. It means literally riding a tiger and it's hard to get off. At this point, you're like, well, why would I ride on a tiger? And duh, it's hard to get off a tiger because why? You might get eaten, right? So basically, this idiom says, if you ever feel like you've gotten to a situation and now you can't back out without making things worse, that's what it means. Like, imagine riding a tiger, pretty cool at first, until you realize you have no idea how to safely get off without the tiger turning around and eating you. Yeah? This idiom is used when someone is stuck in a difficult situation with no easy way out. It's like when you say yes to organizing a school event and then realize it's way more work than you thought. Okay. Last idiom of the day is 画蛇添足. So this one literally means drawing legs on a snake. What does it mean when someone says, that's like drawing legs on a snake? This one cracks me up because it's about ruining something by adding unnecessary things. The story goes like this. That an artist draws a snake, but he feels like the snake needs a little something extra, so he gives it legs. Yeah, legs. Like, who would draw legs on a snake, right? Turns out no one needs legs on a snake, and he just made the whole thing ridiculous. It's a fun reminder to keep things simple and not overdo it. Sometimes less is more. All right, friends, that's it for today's episode of Mandarin Mayhem. I hope you enjoyed these wacky and wonderful idioms as much as I did. Chinese idioms are not only fun to learn, but also super useful in everyday conversation, and they add a lot of color to the language. Next time you catch yourself drawing legs on a snake, or if you start waiting for a rabbit by the tree stump, just remember these idioms and laugh it off. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode. And as always, check out Motherly Notes if you're looking for more ways to learn Chinese fun and make it easy for your kids with our online classes.